Welcome, everybody. Feedback Friday. This is Feedback Friday. We do this every Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Tim and I are on different time zones. For the moment, the plan is to maintain this time zone till the end of the year. So come 2026, keep an eye out for a slight shift in the timing. It will likely scoot up, forward. It'll likely scoot earlier in your morning by an hour or so. We're not sure just yet, but keep an eye out for that. This is Feedback Friday, where we invite folks on stage. We take a look at your resume, portfolio, whatever design artifact you want us to take a look at. And then we learn some context about you, what your goals are, and then attempt to learn how we can better your asset to attempt to get those goals, solve those goals. My throat is much better. Thank you. I'm reading the chat while I'm chatting here. Quick caveat for everybody. We are streaming live on YouTube. There is a YouTube link at the very top of the chat, but I'll go ahead and paste it again right now for anybody that wants to subscribe. The benefit being you get all past recordings, but also the recording of today's session as well. The caveat there being everything we share today is public to the wider world. So if you have a resume, for example, with your phone number on it, you may want to remove that phone number, black it out, or be okay that it's presented to the greater world. I think those are all the high levels. Tim, anything I'm missing there?
Nope. We are on YouTube, but we're not really that big, so don't worry about anything crazy happening. But just know that it's out there. Our goal is always to. I know some people talk about having like a roast session. Like Design Buddies also does roast sessions. This is not one of those roast sessions. Roast sessions are awesome. They have their place. We really want to be more collaborative, though. We want to be more welcoming and friendly. And so if you have ideas that you're working with, or you're just not sure how to phrase something, we want to work with you on that and to help you kind of go up. So just keep that in mind. Like we're not here to diss on you. We're not here to like throw down or anything like that. But just we're doing a thing. We're doing a thing. We want to help you. We're mentor people. We have had mentors who have been really influential for both of us. This is just us kind of giving it back out. So let's jump in then. Let's do it.
First on the list, and forgive me folks on the call, if you're looking at the live stream, the list is currently updating as we speak. Still working on that, but current on the list is li0ness. And I think we're taking a look at a portfolio.
It's a nice clean serif right there. Let's invite li0ness to the stage. Let's see, I'd like to speak. And good morning. Good morning, Katie. Do you have anything you want to say as well? I know that you're kind of incognito because you're off camera.
Yeah, I do not. I'm also actually trying to figure out some behind the stage things that are happening. So bear with me.
Hello. Do I turn on
Good
this
morning.
camera? Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I came to your event last week and I was like, oh my God, this is such an amazing resource. So thank you for doing this every week. That's crazy.
We love doing it. We love doing it. li0ness, can you tell us a little bit about, well, first of all, if we should call you li0ness or Carolyn or something else, something else entirely. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what kind of work or design that you do, if there's anything that maybe makes you stand out or that's kind of unique to you in terms of your positioning, and then what you hope to accomplish today with us?
Yes. Okay. So I'm Caroline. I am based in San Francisco. I'm a designer and artist. And this past year, I've been on sabbatical. So got to discover what makes me helpful and what problems are interesting to me. So in terms of design, what I bring to the table is a high level of systems thinking. I love getting into the hairy stuff and diagnosing, and then creating leveraged designs that kind of lift the bar of the ecosystem. So that gets me really excited. It feels like a nice puzzle, and being able to be a helicopter flying over the system and diagnosing is a strength of mine. But yeah, I would say that enterprise, I'm looking for like enterprise work, building systems, taking it to the next level, but also having a sense of mission towards really like trying to improve a category of work.
Okay, cool. Then when we're working today, your goal can be one of the following or a separate goal entirely. We can look at your landing page. We can look at your resume. We can look at a particular case study. Oh, and also, we'd love to know if you were looking to are you in the job market right now? Are you trying to get hired by corporate, or if you're going more freelancer side, or if you're just kind of sprucing things up? I don't know if you already said this and I totally missed it.
Yes, Tim, I am in the middle of my job search and I'm looking for a maybe a corporate gig that has a passionate team. I think that's the priority at this point.
Okay. Going for corporate. And then do you, sorry, this is just me maybe getting the weeds a little bit. Do you already know what your hiring funnel looks like? Like where inside that funnel you are getting stuck right now?
I'm getting recruiter calls, but making it past the hiring manager has been more spotty. I made it past towards the end of the stage once, but it seems like there was a misalignment. So I'm not sure whether it's at this point where in the funnel I am.
Very cool to see you talking about enterprise environments. Enterprise is my jam, and everything you've said so far screams enterprise, particularly that of working on a particular category of effort, whether that means like a particular initiative or a product. Enterprise seems like your jam. Hey, I may have missed it. Did you have a particular level that you were looking to target? Mid, junior, senior?
I'm looking for senior positions that have infrastructure for leveling up.
Yeah, aren't we all? That makes sense. The senior positions, totally understand that. The ability to level, I don't know that we've got the ability to navigate and identify that from the outside in, but we can do a couple of things here.
Should we look at your landing page and help figuring out if people are bouncing off of your landing page? Or do you want to get into a case study? Or do you want to look at your resume?
I don't know. I don't know. It could be any of those, but what
I want to look at a case study
Yeah.
if you're open to influence.
Yes, I am very
Yeah,
open
I was gonna
to
say
learning.
it. Doing the hand in the wind test. It doesn't look like anything's immediately is bad here on your landing page. It looks pretty strong. You've got a lot going on. Maybe some of your framing and your positioning might need a little bit of help if you're going for corporate, unless you want to be hired as a C to C. If you're going for individual contributor W2 level, kind of getting hired in, some of your agency language or studio language here, like studio, we align. This might put some people off, unless of course, you're going for that.
Mhm.
So just kind of keep that in mind. How you want to position yourself and towards the roles that you're kind of going for, and that's kind of it. That's all I'd offer as a quick little insight. So people typically jump into the first one. I don't know, Nate. Is there one that you were looking at that stands out more to you than this default first one?
I've only looked at the first one. I will say most hiring managers, recruiters click on number one. That's the one they assume you want to present the most aggressively. Is that sounding okay with you?
Yes, that sounds perfect.
Cool. Senior level enterprise. You've got so much cool stuff going on here. This looks great. So as Tim's scrolling through this, for you, Carolyn, but also for the rest of the crowd, because Carolyn, it seems like you've already got a lot of this figured out. When it comes to case studies, there are typically three core target audiences we're attempting to identify and solve for. Audience number one is the recruiter, and these are folk that don't have a deep understanding of what you do. Then we've got the next on the list, the hiring manager. This is the person that you will have your interviews with and will review your case studies. And then we've got the third potential audience, which are future peers. The general storyline is the recruiter looks at your portfolio and your case study, they're not going to read through all of it because they don't have deep understanding. So they're going to do a lot of key phrase matching, which is why at the top of your case study, you've got the housekeeping stuff on there. Things like team size, product team, role. You've got a lot of those keywords and key phrases. So you're doing all of that really well already. So you're solving recruiter needs. Then you've got the hiring manager. Hiring managers care much more about the process. So in your case study, we're looking for not only how you've identified problems, but how you've broken those problems up and solved those problems. And then finally, how you've measured success that the problems are solved. So the validation stage, super important for senior level. And then the third target audience, the future peers, the hiring manager will have like 40 resumes on their desk and they're going to put them in the left pile or the right pile. And then they're going to say, hey, folks, hey, coworkers of mine, I've narrowed down the top 10. Who should I talk with first? And now you're talking about those people who are like telling them which ones they should filter out, which ones they should filter in. Those folks much more interested in the about page, much more interested in who you are. If I share a cubicle wall with you for 8 hours, are you going to make my life miserable? That sort of stuff, right? So they care much more about personality and if you're enjoyable as a person to hang out with. You are doing a lot of stuff correctly here already. As I'm scrolling through this, you've got the housekeeping for the recruiters. You've got the storyline that's being presented in titles. So all of your H tags are storytelling H tags. Like rather than having a section for strategy and then research and then target audience, like that stuff, you are instead using your title tags to tell a story like go to market and low adoption and bear market, or designing for enterprise teams and scaling collaboration. We can lean more into the storytelling by identifying what the problems are in these titles, but I think you're already doing an okay job. Tim, you scrolled through this more than I have. I might be missing some housekeeping at the top dedicated to overview and problem. How are you feeling about that?
Yes, I was going to say, so there's two things that I'm seeing happen. One is that when people look at a portfolio, so recruiters are looking for information content, right? But you said that you're not having issues with recruiters. You're having issues with hiring managers and maybe the people who are involved in that chain. And the first thing that people notice when they land on any website is going to be that visual aesthetic. And I was just going to kind of comment that it kind of seems like we actually go to a different website almost. Like the aesthetic, the type of website that you're building here seems almost entirely different. It's a very different kind of vibe and different kind of layout. It gets a little bit darker and heavier rather than kind of maintaining this like very lightweight sort of the nice subtle, not pure white, and then it's got this nice grading happening here. So it kind of feels like maybe you've updated your landing page since you did the design for this page. Would be my guess. But I am also noticing that even in here, some of these titles like go to market and low adoption in a bear market is not as I guess I'm curious like where you're tying systems into this. Like this problem here doesn't scream like a systems problem to me. And I'd be looking for you to say like, this is the problem and this is why the system is here. Like, I guess the framing of this as a problem in layman terms may be significant. Maybe I'm totally off on that though. I don't.
Yes, maybe it can be clear of the system. Like if what I was doing was taking the existing product and leveling up the systems to have design consistency. But it was during these certain market conditions that made us make significant trade-offs while also maintaining effectiveness.
You've got all the language figured out. Yeah, honestly, Nate, I'm not seeing a lot of easy opportunities for improving the content here, other than the aesthetic difference. And maybe you've made an intentional choice there. This does, especially on mobile, it does feel kind of weird and out of place. Like it's so clean and spacey over here, especially with this like little gradient, and the way that you're using your layout here. How clean it is. You got this nice, like very nice bolding. The sans serif is doing a lot of work here. And then just going into here feels very different. And maybe that would be one thing you could work on improving is making sure people feel like they're still inside the same product, even if they're niching into your product a little bit more.
Hmm. Yeah, you're pointing at an interesting point where this is built on Squarespace, and I was considering moving to Framer next month, but this is the limitation of Squarespace. Like, this is the edge. So that's a great point to make when it comes to overall look and feel.
You know, people may not know this about me, but I actually really like Framer.
I think you've mentioned it once or twice.
Have I? Have I really? If you end up needing help with your Framer transition, just let me know. Well, come and talk about it. We'll do workshops. Last week we did an after hours, and we built a Framer component on stream for someone. So we're here to help. So and also I help Nate sometimes with Framer. And guess what? I also look up stuff about Framer for myself because sometimes Framer is confusing. It's very powerful, but very confusing sometimes.
I'm struggling with Framer right now. I've got Framer open on my other screen, and I am not having a good time. Carolyn, I want to pivot slightly. Tim, is it okay if I pivot?
Yeah.
Carolyn, you've talked about enterprise environments, particularly working on. Well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're describing you want to work on a specific initiative or product line, as opposed to a generalistic all the things incorporated kind of thing. Is that sounding right so far?
I feel I'm going back and forth. Like, I really love working on new features, like being able to guide a product and a team to a place where they thought was impossible. Like, that is really interesting to me, and that's what was exciting in this last project right here. But
Yeah.
there are the trade-offs of, like, is it equipped with the team that supports that, or like leaders that can support that, you know? So it's I'm looking for a role that allows that challenge while also the environment that at least like makes it possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. Have you ever had a conversation about centralized environments versus decentralized environments and the advantages and disadvantages of those teams?
No, tell me.
Yeah, so the why I'm bringing this up is you are describing a desire and a goal for that of a more philosophical direction, working on better futures, an environment that you think you are better attuned to. And that's where these conversations of like the internal environment of how the core structure of the team works come into play. So your current case study, I think you're doing everything correctly in terms of like the technicals of a case study. You've hit all the check boxes. There are minor improvements that one can always make because it can always be iterated, of course. But there's the philosophical tone that I want to potentially shift more toward. Tim, you mind if I take over screen share?
Please do, Nate. Give me a break over here.
Yeah. So take a look at this. There are different structures by which teams organize their internal environments. There are more than just two flavors. I myself am in a hybrid flavor, which is neither of these two things. But for the most part, there are two large ones that are most common: centralized environments and decentralized environments. To compare real fast, let's look at a centralized environment. And this is you here as the UX designer or whatever your product design title might be. And the big thing to note here is that you have a UX manager, and the UX manager says, "Hey, Carolyn, welcome to Tuesday of work. Here's a bunch of stuff for you to work on. Here's a backlog of effort. When you're done with those, let me know. I'm going to assign you a different backlog of effort." This sounds like what you don't want. This sounds like, so there are advantages and disadvantages to this. Advantages are you are working on a team of other designers. You don't work on like a pod. You don't work with other individual product teams. You work solely in a like design department. So really fulfilling there in regard to seeing what other people are doing and your internal career growth in regard to tactics of design. However, it can also feel like button pushing. And as a consequence, the things that the UX manager assigns to you can be for a myriad of projects, none of which you potentially have background in, and you're just following the ticket and the instructions in the ticket, and you're just pushing out tickets. You're an output machine at that point. So this is a centralized environment. This is commonly found in smaller environments because these teams are easy to scale. Like, oh, we need more effort. We don't have enough time in our current workers to get our deadlines in time. So we're just going to hire another designer, add them to that team. Easy to scale, which is why you see them in smaller departments, like design agencies, for example. This is a common environment to design agencies. But you don't get to work on specific initiatives. So let's compare that instead to a decentralized UX team. And this is a UX team that's commonly more found in enterprise agile environments, which sounds like is more toward your direction. But note that you no longer work with other designers. This is you here on product team A, and now your coworkers are that of product managers and developers. This has other roles, but those could be like business analysts, other business stakeholders of some kind. I work with so many of these titles. And now you are the only designer working on a specific initiative or product, and you have ownership of that entire thing. Consequences of this, you no longer work with other designers. So you now have the entirety of the project. You have to own from 0 to 1. If you have a niche, for example, it may not be exemplified here because you have to have like a more broad range of skills. But benefits, you get to focus on a specific niche, a particular initiative, and you get to only do that thing for as long as you want to stay there for years. This is a closer environment to I'm working with. So let me pause there. How is all that sounding to you? Is that making sense so far?
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Like the project that we were looking at, that was a decentralized UX team. And what I loved about it is that you can go super deep in the product. And the trade-offs were what you mentioned, where you're looking for designer feedback, and that's a little sparse, especially in time-bound moments. But I think out of the two, like decentralized is the most interesting from my perspective.
You and I could not be more on the same page there. I'm a much closer fan to the decentralized environments, and the environment that I'm in is much more closely related to decentralized, though technically hybrid. So what's this mean for you? Circling back to your case study, what I'm now looking at is the verbiage that you're utilizing and the positioning of your vocabulary mimicking that of a decentralized environment that you would find in an enterprise agile corporation? And I think the answer is not quite yet. So what I'd love to see more, particularly if you're targeting a senior role, is more verbiage regarding the team, the product team, and how you led those particular stakeholders through that process. I'm seeing a lot of tactical work here, as in like user flows and a lot of like individual process things. I'm not seeing stakeholder management yet. And I think that's the largest missing piece if your goal is enterprise environments. Do you feel like you've got the ability, based on this case study, to pivot some of the verbiage or add a section dedicated to stakeholder management or team leadership?
Yes. I felt like the more that I emphasized it, it was more detractive to the design work. But being that decentralized is, I guess, the direction that I prefer, then it makes much more sense to elevate those components of the stories and let the visuals talk about the design work, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. Evan, not just you. I just minimized the thing. I forgot I was only sharing that particular screen, so I can fix that. But in regard to, actually, Tim, I might just have you take back over again. In regard to that, I don't think I've got any more feedback for you specific to the case study. Tim, anything on your side that we haven't talked about yet? You are currently muted.
I am muted. Sometimes I deserve to be muted, even by myself. I was going to say, Caroline, honestly, I think that you should take this as a win. This is a really good case study. Like, this is already really mature. It's already really well thought out. You've obviously spent a lot of time with it. The visuals are really, really well thought out. It's just kind of some of those visual aspects of like, it does kind of feel like you've gone to a new website because of the way you're doing this hero image. Like if you had instead like a hero video, just kind of like you have right here, where it kind of blends into the page a little bit, that might feel a little bit more like synonymous with the rest of your brand here. And also that green can get a little bit heavy because it's used everywhere. You may want to consider using it as an accent only. Just like small things like that, but not really like, you know, sweeping like you have huge problems. I would also maybe, if you really did want to, though, I think you could probably rewrite your headings just to focus on the impact. Like one thing I was thinking is that you have designing for enterprise teams and scaling collaboration. And like, that's nice, but it doesn't really inform me about the value. Like maybe like what you did. So you might rewrite this as I XYZ to get this for my enterprise team and scaling calibration, right? So maybe being a little more specific instead of using like words like designing to kind of do that entirely. Or even, I know you have down here, you have making complexity adoptable. That's a great, like, I think that's a great subheading, but maybe you could be like, I made adoption of the design system, like adoption was 87% or something within 2 weeks of pushing our system out or something like that, where you can make it maybe a little more tangible, a little more concrete, rather than maybe just punchy tagline. I don't know. But obviously, Carly, I'm reaching a little bit because it's so good. Like it's already really, really good. So I think if you were to say, yeah, this one's fine, and you want to go spend your work on something else, I think that's also okay and appropriate. And so I thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. These are great pointers, and I'll take it back and do another round. Appreciate you too.
Yeah, you as well. Appreciate you hanging out. Let's see. Looking at the chat, next on the list is Ekta. Katie, I'm seeing some dialogue in the background. Do we have? I see Casey was added in the chat. Did Casey volunteer? I remember talking with her in the Discord chats, and she was going to attempt to make today's session. Did you actually sign up?
Yeah, it is there in the chat for Carla, I believe, right?
Carla, yeah. I couldn't tell if I may have missed it. I couldn't tell if she signed herself up or if Scott had signed her up. And I don't want to. Look at anything.
She did first. Yeah, it says, "I'm Carla. I would love to get my portfolio reviewed."
Nice, good catch. I appreciate you taking a look there. Hard to keep track of all the chat while we're doing this stuff. All right. Next on the list is Ekta. Tim, you able to find them? Oh, I got him.
Cool. Yeah, I got her. And I'm seeing already the Framer domain. Guys, let me just clarify before anything else happens. I think Framer is an awesome tool, but guess what? Ooh, that's kind of fun. There's so many awesome tools out there. There's not like a one-shot magic portfolio website to build with, right? You can use anything. You can use vibe coding to build your portfolio website. You could, it's actually really easy to do too. We can talk about this. You can use anything. The main goal though, is that whatever you choose needs to let you have the range to work in the market that you're looking for. So Ekta, today, as you talk about your portfolio with us, will you share a little bit about who you are, what kind of design you're doing, and then something about your market, which would be whether corporate, freelance, agency, etc., and what your goal is today.
Hi guys, thank you so much for having me. So my name is Ekta and I am currently a UX UI designer. So I am a student and I've worked like part-time as a designer as well. And also worked at a startup or two. I'm looking to get into the focus more on the UX side of design, so like a mix of both, but in the end I would really like to focus on getting into the corporate side, so like tech, for example. So that's the goal as of now. So I've had a lot of experience with user interface, so I think I might be like good with it, but when it comes to UX, I'm not so sure. So if I could get some tips on how could I, handle both, but at the same time, figure out a specific field to go in, because I understand that in corporate fields, focuses mostly on specializing in something, but not both. But it's good to have an idea. So I'm a bit confused, but getting there. And I need some tips focusing on how can I, improve my case study, what's good and what's going wrong. So yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, so even as Nate said, like there are in a corporate world, there is a need for highly specialized roles, right? Where you have people who can run really deep inside their niche. At the same time, though, we have the other half, well, it's not half, but like another faucet of the market and of the world right now, which is being led by startups and other very small companies, small medium businesses, where AI is allowing people who are not specialists to act closer to a specialization. So in some ways, being a generalist can have a lot of strengths as well when you are leaning into that side of the market. So
I would
I would
actually
say-
argue that corporate environments lean closer to that of generalism than specialism.
I guess it depends on how big the corporate entity is. I was thinking of like super, super big. Like if you go to Atlassian level where they have where they have lots of designers, really big teams, super structured things. Basically, the more structured a company is, the more roles there are, the better specialization performs, because then everyone gets their different role, their different cog, rather than one size fits all. Right?
I think I'd put some challenge there, but I think the moral of the story is, so I think centralized environments prefer specialists, decentralized environments prefer generalists, and now it's just a negotiation of like what structure that enterprise environment is utilizing.
I will concede temporarily.
We'll talk more about this. There's depth there.
Yeah. Okay, so when we look at your stuff today, Ekta, should we look at your landing page? Would you like to look at a case study? Would you just like general feedback? Like, what is the best way we can help you right now? Yeah, I'm not hearing anything.
Hello.
Hello, you're back.
So sorry. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm there now.
Okay.
Is it possible if you could repeat?
Yeah. Would you like us to focus on your landing page, like your general experience here and your positioning? Or would you like us to do something more like diving into one of your case studies?
I think case studies would be really nice.
Okay, cool. I'll comment really quickly. You said you want to get more into the UX experience of things and that design. Just make sure that whatever you decide to go for, you include that as a target up here. Basically, make sure you're advertising yourself for the right role. When you put creative designer, this will put you more towards those UI camps, more towards like, and there's nothing wrong with being a UI designer either. But this is more towards like UI, more towards graphic, a little bit less outside the experience side of things, right? Especially when we're saying something like crafting digital experiences, which is a very generic little tagline. I'd work on maybe making something a little bit more specific to you. That's something you could own a little bit more, and making sure that whatever title this is, it is the title that you want to get hired as. So let's jump into health and wellness. You think, Nate?
Yeah, I'd go for the first one.
Cool. I am loving the small aesthetics. Oh, whoa. I'm loving the small little aesthetic choices. I will say though, if you have a back button on a page, it should probably go back instead of going to a new page. So just kind of watch out for that. Does not seem to go back to where I started here. So it looks like it's going to a CMS index page, which I totally get the need for. Just kind of watch out for that. Case study 001. Have you had a chance to look at this, Nate?
No, not yet. While Tim's scanning through, I can provide a real high level here. So did we write down, let me look at my notes. I see that you were UX and that you were a student. Is it accurate to say you were targeting entry level?
As in, like, I didn't get your entry level as in for what? For myself?
Your experience.
Yeah. So the question I'm really trying to answer is different levels of like junior, senior, mid-level. There are different things I would look for in those case studies. So I want to validate that if your goal is entry level, that we're tackling the correct things to find in your case study.
So as of now, it's mostly in getting to do an internship, specializing in one of the fields or like both as well. And once I am done, which is like I'm close to finishing my university, I would like to get into the entry level side. So yeah.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. So you're wanting to get more into UX, and it sounds like we're targeting entry level. Cool stuff. Let's talk first about the title of the case study. So you currently have written down case number 01, and then onboarding drop off 40%. Now the intention here is good. This is you clearly attempting to dive into the UX process side of things. We can pivot this slightly to dive more into storytelling. So the onboarding drop off of 40%, that is the outcome of the thing. And that is great. That's great from the UX perspective. Could you find a way to retitle this closer toward that of like the social outcome or even the impact? So for example, what problem was solved by reducing the onboarding drop off by 40%?
Okay, so like mentioning it below, like where AI powered mental health application. So I write it there or on the top?
I'm saying take the title onboarding drop off and replace it with the storytelling that describes the problem that's being solved. Like for example, and I can give you a bad one here, not knowing the context just yet. You could say maximizing the conversion rate for new customers for this product. Like that is already a deeper storytelling headline than reducing onboarding drop off by 40%. Tim has more skill set here than I do.
Yeah, I've also learned we know this is nice, right? When you put a negative inside of something, you're priming someone for a negative experience. So if you can write it in the positive, that often performs better. So if you think about this, onboarding drop off is reduced by 40%, but like what did you increase therefore? And so like this would be, translating this a little bit more into the business metrics a little bit, but let's say if onboarding drop off reduces by 40%, then you could probably say user acquisition is increasing by 60%, right? Actually, I don't think it's 60%. I think my math is baloney, but I think you could probably say user acquisition goes up by 40%, right? So you could say like improving user acquisition, which is a little bit more. I know how to spell, guys. Actually, that is how you spell it. I think the spell check's wrong. That's how you spell acquisition. Final answer. So improving acquisition by 40%, and then anchor this for, and then I would aim. So you're talking about like your what, why, how, who, all that kind of stuff. Nate has a specific thing he always says that I always forget what it is, even though it's really simple, and most people will know this. Oh, thank you. It has a C in it. Thanks. I've now updated my internal dictionary for that. But you could say like improving user acquisition by 40% for, and an AI powered mental health application is about as generic of a description as it gets for something. I would really narrow this in, make it more specific. So I would call this what is this called? Like, does this have a name? Does this have a?
I'm reading through the problem statement. It feels like it's closer, like a rewriting title could be something like helping students feel more comfortable. Something.
For
it looks like it's dedicated to being calm, a judgment-free space.
I'm gonna call it. It has a bunny in it. We're just gonna call it for design bunnies. AI app, if you really want to. Just know though that AI app right now might be low yield. Some people look at AI and they see it as like not good. So I think even starting here where you're saying you're framing this as a positive thing, you're saying you're improving user acquisition by 40% for design bunnies, and then you could even say you could probably take this a little bit further by saying improving user acquisition 40% by redesigning the chat experience. English is my first language. Improving user acquisition 40% by redesigning the chat experience for design buddies. Now you have this thing where you're outlining really quickly, like what did you do? What was the impact? So like this is why it matters, right? And then you have who it was for. And so you're already like, this is more specific. This is something you can own, and it is telling a better story, right? And then I would even transition. What?
I was going to describe what Tim just described as the outcome of is a better, more uplifting outcome that serves as a better title. If you wanted to elevate even further and talk about the impact, you could say something like transforming journalism into a calming escape for overwhelmed students. So if you want to dive more in the storytelling, that would also be an appropriate title.
I think the numbers do better. My opinion.
I think you're right. So I could see like the title, the storytelling title, I could see that replacing the AI powered mental health application title.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think there's also difference. Maybe this is where Nate and I are struggling right now. Is there's a difference in layout here than I think what we're looking for, which is typically you have a title, and I think you're using 2 titles here, and I probably would stick with one title. Choose one title, and then and I probably just take this title and I would put it here. I don't know why I did it twice, but it did. It did it twice. But I put this title here, and then I would talk about your project overview. And then I would say for your problem statement, that thing that Nate just said, where it's like the challenge, right? Where he's talking about like making an app nicer for mental health. Where you're outlining this as like a clear problem, and it'd have to be like a nice headline, right? But essentially telling a story that then qualifies what you're talking about with each of these. And giving a little more context, that could be a good win. That could be a good win here. I feel like I'm beating this with a dead horse right now.
Let's move on slightly here. So let's scroll down to the process section. If one's goal is to dive more into UX, this section I think is the largest area of opportunity for improvement. So we've got user research, insights, design solution, test, and iteration. If you recall back, we talked about the 3 different personas we were targeting in our case study. The two first ones, recruiter and hiring manager, both of them are interested in your process, more so the hiring manager. This section feels to me like an outline, and I would love to see each of these 4 individual sections become larger chapters by which you expose, demonstrate, showcase some of your design process artifacts. I would love to see this section more largely presented here. Diving deeper into the process of how you went and solved a problem, what errors you ran into along the way, how you overcame them. You've got the outcome section right below it. Love to see that. We're just not sure how you got there. And if your goal is UX, we need to know how you got there. Do you feel like you've got the ability to dramatically expand this process section to talk more about how you solve the problems in the way that you did?
Yeah, like I for sure have a lot of information on the problems that came on the way, so maybe I could show those, as well as like while I was doing the research, how I did it, and like where did I make. So do you mean like showcasing wireframes and showing like with whom did I speak to and my notes and everything? So do you mean those?
Close.
Like,
yeah,
how did
not
the research
necessarily
take
the
place?
notes themselves, but the synthesized understanding of those notes. So in your current UX process, you are following what I would call the more standard linear approach to process. So if one in this approach, in this particular workflow, was to talk about process, I would expect to see things like how might we statements, user personas, which you've got, user flows, wire flows, low fidelity mockups, high fidelity mockups. All of that could be included in the process section and is great. All of those are great assets to utilize when targeting entry level UX process level jobs. Mix up the English there, but is that making sense?
Oh, yeah. Do you maybe have like an example or so of like what exactly could I, deepen in? Because I do have the information, but I don't know how to put it.
Heck yeah. Yeah, give me just a second. I'm going to pass the mic back to Tim. I've got a myriad of case studies on my list here. Let me see if I can find one that is most applicable comparison to you.
It's true. Nate does have a portfolio of case studies he collects from people, which is really good, and we look at them from time to time. I was just going to comment. I've been doing a little bit of a different thing, and I think I would like to see you improve your storytelling through your outline a little bit better. You have great outcomes right here, right? So we're talking about how we're making the outcome a little more forefront. you can go ahead and outline your outcomes here. Bring them up to the top too, so I get to see these a little bit faster. I get to see them before I have to go all the way down to the bottom. Now, I would also include them at the bottom too, right? Make sure these go down here too at the end, so you can talk about them again. But I would just, you don't need to bury them too much. You can let them kind of live. This is that if you're familiar with like a trust ladder or like a trust funnel, there's always the idea that you need to tell someone enough things about you or about what you're doing so they trust you and they want to say yes to you. And the ultimate yes of someone looking at your portfolio is that they want to hire you. And so the better, like as you go down the funnel, it should become a little bit less. You want your high value stuff up here at the front because this is where they're going to spend most of their time. And then as they go down, you can go deeper and deeper and deeper. But you want to avoid like like trying to assume someone is willing to go through your entire case study to get value. So just kind of keep that in mind. So we're going to TLDR our top. We're going to make sure that we have our outcomes. We're going to tell quick stories. We're going to have good headlines. We're going to talk about the outcome that you're reaching for and your goals. And then perfectly, you're going to get into your process. And I don't think you don't need to beat, the process too much. You don't need to like over explain like what is user research. But if you want to talk about each step here and then qualify each of these, which I think is what Nate was talking about, where these could easily become their own sections. And now you're going to provide evidence of what you did in each of these sections. Just like you have an outcome section here, you could have a user research section where you talk about personas and et cetera. And then the artifacts of this would be your insights. And so framing those insights as the proof of your user research, which I guess you also have an insights section. So I guess you could do an analysis section. This could have its own insights as well, but maybe I would combine these since user research is only really valuable when you have good insights that come from it. And then solution is a good one, and then so is testing and iteration. Process does matter. But sometimes senior level hiring managers are going to want to hear more about your outcomes. So if you do want to say design solution, you might call this validation, or you might call this like something a little bit more on the side of like the word I'm looking for is like something that feels a little bit more like you cinched it, like you've brought closure to what you just did, and you're proving that all the work you did is now valuable because you're validating it, or like you call this like user outcome or maybe user reception, something along those lines.
Like approved or user approved.
Yeah, user approved is a little bit more casual, and if you want to go for that vibe, you can totally go for that vibe. But probably something not that testing iteration is bad. But if you put iteration here at the end, it will feel unfinished. And that's not the goal, right? You don't want someone to get to the end of your case study and be like, wow, they just never finished this. Instead, you want it to feel like it's complete. So definitely expanding these, maybe collapsing user research and insight, putting more evidence here in your design solution. Like you have UI here, but why no UI here, right? This is like, why if friend shape, why not friend? It's friend shape, but there's no friend here. There's no UI or anything that speaks to your design solution here. And I want to see some of that stuff. So you can include it down here and kind of help us find it. Nate, did you find what you were looking for? I think you're on.
Yeah, I linked it in the chat.
Okay, you're good.
I want to talk about if friend shaped, why no friend? Is this a common phrase?
The most common of phrases.
Yeah.
Type in the chat if you've heard that phrase before.
Look at that. If friend shape, why not friend?
What? People know this phrase? This can't be right.
WikiHow with the explain. Guys, I will talk about it another time. I am so impressed though with how WikiHow is fighting to stay relevant. Like their product expansion has been crazy. But we'll talk about that another time.
Tim, in regard to Ekta's case study, I don't know that I have anything else to add. I think the largest area of opportunity is probably the process section and potentially the storytelling. Tim, what are your takeaways for the largest opportunities?
It looks like you have. It honestly looks like you're kind of the opposite of what most people we talk to are, which is good and bad in its own ways. Most designers have a hard time talking about their outcomes, and they have no way to talk about like what they actually, what actually is the proof of their value. You have that. Instead, you have your outcomes. They're clearly defined. You even started off, you have onboarding drop off by 40%. So you know your outcomes. Instead, you need to spend more time with the storytelling and making sure those outcomes are palatable and well understood. And then in your process section, making sure that this process is a little more felt and it's more real and that it wasn't just an afterthought. Yeah, that's those would be my takeaways here. And remember to use good storytelling. Bring the user along with you, right? So onboarding drop off, a decrease by 40%. One, you have the negative framing. Maybe, negative framing is not like, it's not like going to kill you every time, right? So maybe you do want to keep it, but you can also like reframe this by like talking about like what you did, right? So onboarding dropped off for who? Onboarding drop off for, I guess it's called safe space. So you can say, so you talk about that for safe space, and then talk about like what you did to do it through research. What you did, we know more now through user research and testing, right? You can talk about those things here as your title. So it's a little more storyline. This means what this will do too is if I was maybe a recruiter or someone who's on your website, I'd refresh your website. So it'll all reset. But like, for example, if I'm on your website and I scroll through here and I see that title, right? AA powered mental health application tells me nothing. That's like a product, right? It's a product that I'm like, you're like listing. It's almost like I'm on a website, like shopping for something. I'm not trying to shop though. And so if you have something much stronger there, like that, improving user acquisition by 40% through user research and design for safe space. One, if I never even click on this case study, I already have the impact and the value that you're bringing to them right away. I already know like, oh, wow, this person does increase user acquisition. This person knows how to do user research. This person knows how to do design. And that's really good. And then I can just click on this one or another one, right? And I don't have to necessarily get all the way through this to understand the good stuff. Do you feel okay with that? Is that okay insight?
And, like I also had, yeah, makes sense. So I also had another question. So if I like elaborate a lot on the process and everything, wouldn't it look like there is a lot of information? And before you mention that they don't spend a lot of time at your portfolio, so like how much information is
Ekta, we may have lost you there.
so sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. You were talking about how in depth should you go?
Yeah. Like how much is sufficient?
Great question. It depends on who you are. Some people go really in depth. Some people don't go in depth. It tends to be though, that if you are in a junior position, talking about it in depth more is better. If you're in a senior or a lead position, talking about it less and talking about the outcome is better. And so it's kind of this dual thing of like just knowing who you're targeting and where you want to go, and then storytelling to those audiences. Because if I was a senior level person, right? Say, because I'm a senior designer, right? So when I'm targeting senior and other lead roles, I'm not going to do the thing where I kind of sort of mansplain or over-explain. Mansplain is the wrong word, but where I over-explain certain things or like go through some of like the research section a little bit too in depth. And instead, I'm going to be like, I think the person who's probably reading my case study is a VP, right? And does the VP care about how I do it, or does the VP care about what happens when I do it? And I think the VP probably cares more about what happens when I do it. If I'm a junior level designer though, and the person reading my case study is probably a senior level designer, I need to help that senior designer feel like when they bring me on their team, I'm going to know how to do the stuff that they want to do. And I'm going to know how to support their team, and I need to know the processes. And so you'll have to choose, sometimes you'll have to choose which way to lean. And you may find over time that you lean one way, during one season and another way during another season.
Okay. Good point. I think the second option is better because I'm aiming for obviously entry level. And I also like all the time notice that everyone, like example, an Apple designer or a Google designer, they'll always like they never have a lot of information or like things that we include in our portfolios. But now I know why.
Yeah, the worst. There's someone called Charlie Dietz. He's such a cool guy. His design stuff. He's really well known for his design in the design community. Except when you go to this is his whole portfolio. Do you see this mug here? Does this look like a happy person that you want to design? Who you want to like do your design work? Who's creative and full of life and energy? Not to me personally, but like at the same time, this person has worked at like incredible places. Look, there's that Apple designer. This person worked with WhatsApp, Facebook. Like this person is outstanding in their design and their stuff, right? But he doesn't have any case studies on here. Like you can click this. This just goes to the website. This goes to the website for the company he was working for.
All his jobs are referrals.
Yeah, and so like he's just got that going for him. So yeah, if not designer, why designer shaped? He is a designer. He's a designer, but he is so but he's definitely at like a higher level, right? He's at a higher level for stuff. So I'm losing the thread here, going in circles a little bit. Improving your storytelling will benefit you a lot. And spending time, you don't need to make each of these sections like their own case study, right? But I think that if you were to say this becomes its own section, user research, and then you spend maybe like an additional paragraph or 2 paragraphs about that, and then one visual artifact that supports those paragraphs, that will probably be sufficient to start with. And then you can always add a little bit more, right? You can always add more later.
Okay. Yeah.
Tim, I'm looking at the clock. It's time
just-
for us to pivot off to the next one. Ekta, how you feeling? You feel like you've got some takeaways?
Yes, for sure. So now I know what am I supposed to jump into right away. Thank you
Fantastic.
so much, guys. And
Yeah, I really
I hope
appreciate you hanging out with us.
and I hope it's fine if I also join you guys next week and maybe in time for another review or like the week after, depending
Heck
upon
yeah.
the changes I make.
Yeah, would love to see changes. Come by anytime.
Thank you so much.
Tim, next on the list we've got, and it's a hard one to pronounce, NI space N/A. I see them in the chat, and looking at the portfolio, it looks like they go by Nina. Nina, welcome to the chat. Welcome to the stage, I should say. You are currently muted if you're talking.
But when you do come off mute, Nina, if you'll tell us what we should call you, and then a little bit about who you are, what kind of design you do, if you have any specific like niches or skills that are like part of your setup that differentiate you, and then what your goals are today, such as are you looking to try to find a job, corporate world, maybe the startup world, maybe you're freelancing your way right now, or you're even going fractional, and if you have an expertise level.
Nina, looks like we're still unable to hear you if you're
Not hearing
fiddling
anything
with some
either.
mic settings. Oh, they hopped off. We'll have to invite you back on. Oh, did they close out of everything?
They may have quit Discord. They're doing the old restart.
Yeah, that classic.
I'll give them a second.
Well, I was thinking we just swap to the next one and then come back to Nina afterwards.
Looks like this is built with Wix. Is anyone else using Wix? Does this look like Wix to you guys?
They're in the chat. They say they're back.
Hello.
They're-
I'll invite you back to
Fuck.
speak.
I already did it, Nate. I invited them first.
Double invited.
Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Hello.
Hey.
Sorry. I was having issues with my mic. Sorry there. So, hi. My name is Nina. I am an industrial designer. I just recently graduated from Sheridan College. So, right now I'm mainly
Congratulations.
looking for junior designer roles, specifically industrial design. And yeah,
Specifically in what kind of design?
industrial design, which is my discipline.
Ooh. Tim, how much do you
Yeah.
know about industrial design?
Industrial design. Okay, I was looking for. I was like, I can't. I'm not catching the word there. Industrial design. Okay, very cool. Very cool. Industrial design is great. So that's like mostly going to be like, if I'm not wrong, that's going to be like creating renders that then translate into like physical artifacts.
That's right. So yeah, very much. I know it's a bit different from majority of people here that do mainly digital product design, so like UI and UX. But yeah, essentially just the physical version of it. Yeah.
It's like the coolest version, honestly. Like, let's be real. Like, we're all in the digital world because digital stuff is really easy. But if we had the manpower to like make the stuff we want to make, like I think a lot of us would make that stuff too. That's why 3D printers are so cool.
God, I miss my 3D printer. I had to get rid of it when I moved. But Nina, I plan on buying another one. What kind of 3D printer do you own?
I mean, yesterday I was at this event for this CAD software called OneShape, and they had this really cool bamboo 3D printer that's pretty accessible. Like I think it's like 1,600, so that's not too bad. I'm actually in
Bamboos are so
Canada, so
cool.
that would be like in Canadian dollars.
Yeah, I had the Creality CR10, bought it I think 7 years ago. Way too hobbyist at the time. Every print required fiddling and solving before you got a good print. Nowadays, it feels like
Right.
it's more solved.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like some filament's still a little bit tricky to work with, depending on the machine that you have. But yeah, for the most part, it's pretty simple.
Tim, I don't know much about industrial design. And in regard to how much value I can add, I'm trying to figure out where we can spend the time to assist with Nina's goals.
Okay,
Feel
yeah.
free to
Let's
lead the way if you have a confident direction.
So, Nina, I cannot weigh in on the professional requirements for being an industrial designer. However, I am a specialist for web design and for digital design, and that includes portfolios. So, the expertise I'm willing to offer you today, in fairness, is maybe helping you make some decisions about your portfolio that will aesthetically improve your presentation to others, but not necessarily being able to comment maybe on the assets or even like the types of things people are looking for. For example, like in your case study here, I have no idea like if this is convincing or not, other than maybe improving the presentation so it looks nice or is like aesthetic and fun for people to look at. Is that okay if we proceed that way?
Yeah, sounds great.
And real fast, you signed up for this? Did you have a particular goal that we were able to also talk about?
So as I mentioned, I just recently graduated, so I just wanted to see if there are any ways I can improve my portfolio. I'm aware that you guys are mainly in product design, so that I think there's a lot of like merit and benefit to that. Like in terms of you guys can actually, I was looking for exactly what he said, so just like point out ways that my website can be perhaps more interesting, more accessible, and professional.
Fantastic. Well, in regard to skill sets here, Tim's far more in tune with the aesthetic side of things than I am. I'm going to let Tim take the lead on this one, and I'll chime in when needed.
Whoa. It's about to get pretty unhinged pretty quick. No, just kidding. Okay, so portfolios. The thing about a portfolio is that it is to sell you. You are the product, Nina. So this portfolio should, one, convince me that, one, I should trust you, but that also I have a problem that you can solve and that you are the greatest problem solver of that problem of all time. And Nina, it should also be like a mini you. I want to come to your website and it's a mini Nina, which means that when you're not in the room and I'm online and I'm looking at this by myself and you're not next to me by my shoulder, willing to tell me about yourself as you show me your website, that this will tell me a lot about you and it will convince me everything I need to know about how Nina is the greatest industrial designer of all time. So with that in mind, I also know we've talked about this too. Like, there's many website builders out there. I think was your website built with Wix?
Yes, that's right. It was built with Wix, and I kind of wanted to switch that because I am planning on moving this website elsewhere and like perhaps even like start from the beginning because I'm not too happy with how it is right now. So I was considering either like Framer, Cytero, but even like the new Wix. I think it's like called Wix Studio instead of the editor. Yeah, so just because I think they have better options since like you can do more things with it.
I think my very first website that I ever built, I was in college, and I built it on Wix as well. And I remember it being really easy to do, but it also like was so easy to do all the wrong things. And so kudos to you for not doing all the wrong things the way I did when I built my first website. It wasn't a portfolio website at all. It was just like a thing I was just tinkering with. At the time, I'm a very curious person. I get myself in lots of trouble that way. And that's what I use. But you'll find, so the feedback we'll try to give, I'll try to make sure it works within the constraints of what you already have. However, you'll find that anytime you choose a like an easy to implement website solution, it is going to have lots of constraints. And this is why solutions like Framer are become more popular, because they're like this canvas where you can kind of do anything. But then people run into the problem where you can do anything, and so it's like not enough structure. And so just knowing yourself, like where you want to be on the spectrum, of like how much time you want to spend with the actual craft and on it is also really important. Wix is a perfectly adequate, fine solution, and it's a perfect solution for some people. So when we look at your website, there's a couple of things I'm seeing right away, which is we have lots of colors. We've got this orange color, we've got this blue color, we've got another blue color, and we've got another blue color down here, which looks like it's faded, which does match over here, and this orange color matches up here. And so I don't know if you did that intentionally. I think matching your colors to the products that you're showing is a smart choice for the most part, but there is a little too much room up here. I would go ahead and collapse this navigation bar just a little bit. And I would also remove the color variation between things. We don't talk about this too much sometimes, but whenever you have colored elements next to each other, especially when it has important information, you need the contrast. You need the contrast between those elements to be adequate. So even though this blue color on this white passes contrast, and this blue color passes white on this contrast, it probably doesn't pass contrast between itself, which makes it look more faded than what it should look like. Or what you could do is go the other way around, where you could do, you could do the DE here as the lighter weight thing, and then your name as a darker thing, and it will bring more emphasis to your name and to who you are, so people associate your name with this product a little bit more. We're also looking over here. So like, hello, I'm Nina. Hello, Nina. That's great. Be bold. Put your name on here. Like that's your name. I would want to see your specific title here though. So as you say, I'm a designer. A designer can mean so much stuff, right? It can mean 100 million things. There is no monopoly on the word designer. And some people even consider like, anything can be design, right? So including your industry here, as I am an industrial designer with a specialization in like physical product design or something in this regard. Otherwise, I'm worried that this line right here, this is generic enough for any UX designer, any UI designer, any product designer, any graphic designer, right? For them to use the same line here. And so this does not identify you strong enough, in my opinion here. I do love though that you have this little section here that talks about like you're being inspired here. Nate, have you looked at this paragraph at all?
No, I'm looking at the Flourish case study, which is very cool, but I have not read the paragraph you're looking at.
Okay. Nate is really good at helping people with their hero sections, with their thing here, because you want to talk about your why and then your audience that you're going for, and then maybe some things about like that make you unique, and basically making this less design philosophy and more about reflecting and giving me a vibe of who you are. I want to know who Nina is when I read this small paragraph. And I think it's also smart that you're letting people navigate out of here. Now, when you build a website, the important thing is that you don't give people buttons that you don't want them to press. And so I'm curious if you want people on your website in the industrial design world, if the most converting thing, like if someone comes to your website, if the highest value thing for them to do is to go to your About You page, do you have an opinion on that? If this is what you want them to look at the most?
Well, I no, like the focal point should definitely be in the portfolio section. So I was even considering like either moving or making it smaller, like my hero section, at least like the section talking about me, or moving it down like below the portfolio part, because even though it does welcome like people to the website and like it just gives a bit background about what this website is, I also wanted to focus more on the portfolio part.
I think it makes sense to me as well. If I can grab it, let me see if I can get this. I can't grab it. It's fighting me. It's got hands. It's fighting back. What I would say is, if this is not where you want people to go, don't give them a button to it right away. I would instead, because when people land on a website, they're getting oriented. They're trying to figure out what they're supposed to do next. And if you give them basically, if you say, like, this would be like coming into a restaurant and the first sign you see is the exit sign instead of the menu. And if you see the exit sign first, that's like what you're thinking about doing before you even get to the menu. So I wouldn't give them this button here. I would instead, I think it's smart if you were to say a new section here at the bottom, and you were to put your, this learn about me. And you could even, there is a world, I don't know if Nate will agree with me on this. There's a world where you could move this whole paragraph section. Like you could essentially make a whole, whoa, it doesn't want to move. You could make a whole new section over here though, at the bottom, where it has your, not only like this about you section, but also has, I'm breaking everything, where it has this learn about me button, but also like more about you down here. You can talk more here at the bottom if you'd like to, and that might give you a little more room to talk about yourself without it being distracting and help people get into the portfolio section a little bit more. Now, you did say I'll let Nate comment actually. Nate, do you have any feedback here on this top section?
Yeah, I'm thinking about some value proposition writing and understanding here. Value propositions high level describe ideally a sentence or two who you are, what your differentiation is, and then what your product is and who you're targeting. So I'm fiddling with the notepad here on my other screen. This is a bad example, Lena, and it requires iteration, but it explains some of the mindset of where I'm trying to head. So for example, hello, my name is Nina. I'm an industrial designer. I help purpose-driven brands and entrepreneurs who want to bring meaningful, resonant products to the world. It's still a little broad and ambiguous. Ideally, there'd be a target market in there, but you know more about that than I do. So let me pause there. Is the ideology of narrowing down your hero verbiage making more sense in regard to defining your differentiation and your target market? And do you feel like you've got the ability to do some of that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I can definitely narrow it down. Yeah, because like you might know, industrial design is a really broad field, and I've been talking to some like people who graduated prior to me, and they all were like, you gotta like choose a direction. Like even your portfolio, you gotta show what you like, where you want to go, right? So if you want to go to medical designs or like medical devices design, you should do more work about that and just put that on your portfolio and stuff like that. So yeah, in terms of the writing, yeah, they can definitely make it more narrow.
Quick barometer for you. The verbiage that you currently have, I feel like we could copy and paste on another industrial designer's portfolio and it still mostly makes sense. So when you've written a statement that no longer applies to everybody else, you know you're headed in the right direction.
Or at least one that people can directly attribute to you. Like if they think about you when they say those words, and the kind of work that you do.
I see. Okay. I'll think of something about that.
Hey,
Okay,
I'm gonna call you out. Yeah.
Things.
So the things that I really want to talk about are more so in the products themselves, less so overall. Except I have been looking and I do see this kind of link that says plus more. This is like kind of your like other works area. I would kind of try to maybe get the naming to be something of that nature, like other works or something, because more and then more ideas maybe is a little unclear. But I was looking at your one second. I was looking at your products themselves, and I think you have a lot of good like photos that show kind of the products, and they look great. But there's not a ton of like story as to, you know, how you built the products and how you got from point A to point Z. And I was looking at other industrial design portfolios, and they have a lot of that. So that's one area of opportunity I think that you could work on.
Honestly, great point. Yeah, I'll work on that. That's actually really good point.
I mean, all I did was just look up kind of like, you know, best industrial design portfolios or something like that. And then I'm going through and I'm seeing like what other designers are doing. But I was seeing a lot of, you know, portfolios where they're explaining a little bit more of their process. Maybe kind of like similar in UX design. Like you're not doing it at such a high level, but you're doing it enough to where they get an overview of the project.
Nina, I'm looking
sounds
at
good.
the clock. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So maybe some sort of like timeline of what I did, like might actually be helpful for the storyline of like my process.
Like a timeline, you said? Did I hear you right?
Yeah. So either a timeline or
So-
like just
Yeah, so
more
mostly
spread
I'm
out.
saying like what's the problem that you're solving? How did you solve the problem? That would be kind of like the story that you should tell, I think.
All right, sounds good.
My last two things to say for you. I don't think you need to call this your portfolio down here. I think maybe even because of how big this is, it erupts a little bit. You could probably remove the word here. I don't think you need to preface this too much, but you can. I'd put something like maybe your work or like work selections, something of that nature. But this is a trend we often see where people want to put the title on hover, and I would not do that. I would make sure the title is visible outside of that because it contextualizes this. Because if I scroll here and I don't have my mouse on any of these, this might look like an image gallery rather than a selection of like places to go look at, right? So I would just wouldn't know to click on any of these unless I move my mouse on them. And that can be a big deterrent. People won't know to click on things, and you're also missing the opportunity to like tell me about this, like the nibble box. I don't know what this is. It just looks like a render. But if you anchor this as like the nibble box somewhere over here in a brief description of what it does or what it solves or how you built it, something that's valuable to industrial design, that might help people want to click these a little bit more and make your gallery a little bit better. And that's all I will say for this time because I've been talking for a long time. I get the sense. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Really appreciate all the advice.
Appreciate the time. Next up, Tim, we've got Flor. Flor, if you're out there somewhere, feel free to raise your hand. And if I recall, Tim, this is a resume. So before we share screen, let's confirm that nothing sensitive is being shared.
Hi,
Hey, hello, how are you?
fine. I was here last week with my portfolio, and now I'm with my CV. I know there is no sensitive data. I have used some placeholder for the phone number, things like that. So no worries.
What a placeholder it is. 3306 star.
Well, it's a pretty simple CV because I'm trying to pass the ATS system, everything related to that. Well, to make a quick summary, I'm a UX-based designer. I'm from Argentina, but I live in Paris, so I'm looking for a job in a country where I don't master the language. I speak French, but I'm trying to look for my first job here. So I'm trying to highlight my experience working with international teams, collaboration, English also because the French don't speak English that well. um, and I think it's more or less that. More or less that. About 4 years and a half of experience. And I wonder if my CV is easily scannable because it seems a bit like a wall of text, even if I'm using bullet points. But I don't know what else can I do with a Google Doc document. So I don't know if it looks good or if the content, I don't know, if it's scannable enough.
I love talking about resumes here. Tim, I'm happy to hop on and listen to what you want to say.
Yeah, I'll preface by saying, resumes are tough because we always want to design them for humans to look at because we are humans ourselves, and humans are not typically the people who are the most critical on our resumes, and so it's like a tough thing. I'm curious what you'll say first, Nate.
Well, what where my mindset is at is starting philosophically. So we're designers, and as designers, we end up making assets that look very beautiful and pretty. What's interesting is the juxtaposition between that of portfolios and resumes. Portfolios are designed with some standardization in mind, but for the most part, they are creative assets used to exemplify our talents, skill sets, and individuality in most cases. Resumes often take the opposite approach, in that it is far less important to present individuality and far more important to deal with standardization, which is what you're currently working with. You are doing a lot of things here correctly. So the meat and potatoes, as my old boss would say, it will be the bullet points and content of your resume. And in regard to that largest, most important section of your resume, you are well on your way. Certainly areas for iteration, but we can talk about that here in a second.
Mm-hmm.
You've already mentioned the big mysterious black box in the room, the ATS. Are you familiar with what an ATS is and how it works?
I've been told some recommendations, but you never know exactly because everyone tells you a different thing. Like, for example, I've been told once that the photo didn't allow the CV to be read, but then some other people suggest you to add a photo. So, I've been also told to use a one-column layout. Nothing fancy, no icons, no anything. So that's why it's pretty plain. And I try at least to use some bold typography to highlight some keywords. But I don't know any other tips that could be useful other than that.
Yeah, let me give you a little high-level overview of what an ATS is. So as you progress and iterate in your resume, you'll have the correct motivation and momentum in mind. So an ATS, high level, for those on the call who are unfamiliar, stands for Applicant Tracking System. And what's important to understand is that applicant tracking systems are utilized in almost every organization. Now, when we talk about ATSs, most folk on this call are talking about mostly how an ATS filters a resume. But I think it's really important to understand that ATSs go beyond just resume filtration. They are the relationship management tools that most every organization utilize to manage how they've interacted with you. An HR guy or a recruiter will go into the ATS and say, oh, I've talked to Flor on December 22nd and 2024. This is the communication that we had. Here are the conversations that took place. So this is how relationships are managed, ATSs. The larger the organization, the more feasible and capable their ATS is. So the larger the organization, the more features and tool sets the ATS will provide, typically. Also, the more expensive they become. So now we're diving into, well, if an enterprise company has 1,000 job applications being consumed, can a human do all of that? Or is it more effective for the ATS to attempt to parse it by itself and recommend what it thinks are the most impressive resumes based on that of the job description that's being hired for? And that's the conversation we're having today. How can we best design this resume so it utilizes the ATS for what it is and builds upon the stuff that you want to share, mostly for humans, but also is consumable for the computer? There are a myriad of conversations about this. You've already touched on some of them. Images are a struggle with ATSs. You're also utilizing a Google Doc, which is a recommended application. Design applications typically aren't recommended. And now the conversation slightly pivots into, okay, well, what's also good for the ATS, but also makes me competitive to that of other candidates applying for the role. And now we're getting into conversations like, do we have enough words on your resume to compare to that of other resumes? Let me pause there for a second. I've thrown a lot at you. Is all of that making sense so far? Flor, did I lose you?
No, sorry. Can you repeat, please?
Yes. Is all of that making sense so far?
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. So, your resume is doing a lot of things correctly. This is what I would argue is a phenomenal first draft of a resume. And like all good writing is rewriting, now it's time to just rewrite a little bit of it. Let's see. Where's a good place to start? Tim, one of the things I'm thinking of is we could solve a lot of high-level stuff if we were to just toss this into an application like Resi or utilize some already created template. How are you feeling about that direction?
I do think starting with a template's a good place. I would just outline maybe some other of the best. Are you saying we should do it right now? Do you want to build it right now on this?
That's what I was thinking, but I like your direction more of staying more high level for the moment.
I have a thought also. I have, speaking to like ATS again, I've built from templates like straight in Figma for my resume. And sometimes when you export them, the text like data gets really wonky. So be wary of that too. Like if you do tend to use like a template of some sort.
Yeah, my recommendation when you build a thing, my recommendation is for resumes is start really simple. I think starting in a Google Doc is a great place to be. Try to avoid columns. Instead, use commas instead of columns. Easier to parse, and be linear. So I'd honestly say like you have the right structure for the most part, minus some spacing. The colors probably aren't necessary. I don't think it'll hurt you on an ATS anyways though. So it's like, it's like there's nothing wrong there. But I will say
a quick asterisk there, Tim. Colors can, so in this case, your color is totally fine. There are ATSs that will filter out resumes that have white text, for example, as a method of attempting to bypass and what's the term? We're plugging in a lot of keywords.
Yeah, I would say this is what we could do. Nate, if you want to spend 5 minutes rewriting this, we can totally do that.
I don't want to do that. Okay. Oh my God, it would take way more than 5 minutes. Holy guacamole.
Okay, that's
but
what
we can certainly talk about.
I was worried you were going to go that way. Okay. Cool.
No, we could certainly talk about the what, how, why approach and all of that. We can also talk about Resi. I'm thinking for the biggest bang for Flor's buck for today's purposes, like maybe getting her in a template is potentially like the largest bang, solving a lot of the layout ATS hurdles, and then maybe rewriting the bullets. How do you feel about that?
Okay.
Flor, there's an application called Resi. I'm going to link it in the chat here. And the only reason I talk about it...
Do you want to share a screen, Nate?
No, I don't. Well, so the reason I'm not sharing my screen is, and this is another bullet point I've written down, Flor, is that your current resume isn't downloadable. And I just want to make sure you're aware of that. And it should be downloadable at some point.
Yeah, no, it's a copy. Don't worry.
Don't fret about that. I'm linking you to an application called Resi. The only reason I talk about Resi as much as I do is that the link that I'm providing provides a methodology of getting a free pro account. Resi isn't particularly special. There are other applications that do the exact same thing, but this way you can get for free, which is nice. This is an AI. It's the closest thing us consumers have to an ATS. It validates that your thing is consumable. It'll then argue with you on how to better improve your resume. And because you can iterate and get immediate instant feedback, this is going to take you, I think, the most of the distance in regard to the best benefit for this call. I think that's going to get you most of the way there. Okay. It does also provide a template for you. You are welcome to not use it, but versus the current one, I think the template it'll build for you will be superior, mostly because what we're looking at currently is lacking enough structure to that of the standardization processes that we're trying to account for that I think it's going to work against you in comparison to other candidates.
Okay. Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah, Tim, any yes ands to that, or should we talk about bullets?
Let's go to the bullets.
Let's see. I like to enforce a what, how, why approach to writing bullets. And this is not the end-all correct theory. This is just a workflow that I like to utilize that forces one to write a good bullet point. Really hard to write a bad one with a why, how, what approach. Am I taking over the screen share? Is that what's happening?
No, I just wasn't. There's nothing I'm showing of value in this exact.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll take it over here. Let's see. So a what, how, why approach. The objective here is let's look at your first bullet. Currently redesigning the mobile application of a digital bank. This is, well, let me continue on for a second. Redesign the website of a payroll infrastructure provider from a one-pager to a comprehensive website that helped them secure 10 million in seed funding. So the difference between these two bullets is astronomical. The second one is doing a whole lot of favors for you. This first one is doing nothing for you whatsoever. So check this out. Can I edit this? No, I have to request access. Okay, hang on. Let me pull up. That's totally fine. Let me pull up a notepad.
Because as I work for a design agency, I just wanted to show that I work for different industries. And even though the banking app isn't finished yet, but it's a way more comprehensive process than just a website. That's why, even though I don't have metrics for the first one, but
totally understand. All right, this is
maybe the way I wrote.
Yeah, and that's also why it's important to talk about like your outcomes, because when you think about any project is a multitude, right? You did like 100 things. Every single day you did a different thing, and if you were at a job for you were at May 2021, like is that 3 years, 4 years? Wait,
4 years and a half.
4 years. So if you were to say this has to encapsulate every single thing or process you did in the past 4 years, that's essays.
So take a look at this. This is fascinating. What a great example this is, Flor. So I like to accommodate a what, how, why approach. Let's look at your second bullet point. Redesign the website of a payroll infrastructure provider. That's what you did. From a one-pager to a comprehensive website, that's how you did it. That helped secure 10 million in seed funding. That's why you did it. What a phenomenal example of a what, how, why approach. Now let's take this same bullet and let's flip it around on its head. So why, how, what? Now let's rewrite this bullet to start with the why. Help them secure 10 million in funding by transitioning a one-pager to a comprehensive site that redesigned the website of a payroll infrastructure. Need some verbiage terminology here. But what I'm attempting to emphasize here is that nobody in the world is going to hire you for what you do or even how you do it. They are going to hire you for why you do it. Securing 10 million in funding is phenomenal. So if we start with the impact to that of the company, we're now starting with the benefit of the company. The objective being, as anybody skims and reads through your resume, you're starting with all the reasons they want to hire you in the first place. Starting with the why is so impactful. And the fact that you've already got all these numbers in your resume means you've already got all these whys. You just need to swap them to the very beginning.
Okay.
How's that sound so far? Does that make
my
sense?
yes and to what Nate just said though is you do still need what you did is important, but you still do need to show that you're doing it the way that they want you to, because jobs can be pretty specific, and recruiters will look through your resume as well, and they need to see those processes too. So don't, if you want to say like secured 10 million in seed funding is a great like start, but just don't exclude the redesign, right? Don't minimize the process to the extreme.
Okay. So it's very insightful because I have never thought about flipping it around. I'll try.
Yeah. And the more specific you can be too. So like you say, redesign the web application of a multi-employer. So even if you say like 10 million seed funding by redesigning the website of a payroll infrastructure provider from one pager to a comprehensive website. You could probably make that a little bit more specific. So like secured 10 million in seed funding by, there's lots of ways. There's so many different ways redesign can be, but say like your redesign included like, 500 rounds of revisions. You would say like through 500 revisions of a website or something of that nature, where you can now target specific processes per bullet point. And then you can use each of those bullet points underneath. So you have UX, UI designer as your role title, and every single bullet point can speak to a slightly different process or skill that's attached to an impact across that role.
Okay. Okay.
So that feedback in regard to writing bullets, you've got most of all the stuff you want to say. Now it's just rewriting it to start with some of the whys. It'll enable your resume to be more persuasive here.
Yeah,
Real,
this
I'm
is a
looking at
really
the clock.
convincing one.
This
Digital
resume
marketing
looks great.
specialist.
Looking at the clock, there are a couple of high-level things I want to talk about real fast. Personal descriptions at the top typically don't provide value. This one included. The hurdle now being, I could take this statement, paste it on someone else's resume, and it still describes them fairly well. So it's just not differentiating you enough. It doesn't talk about you. So that's a waste of, it's a distraction from the important stuff, which is your experience.
Okay.
You have enough experience. So you've been working in the market, in this industry at least, for 6 years now. We don't need a couple of sections here. Tools are positioning you closer to that of junior level. You could potentially include these in the skills section. The validation there being that the ATS is potentially looking for some of these keywords, so we'd want to include them, but you don't need a tool section specifically. We can toss those in skills somewhere.
Okay.
And then courses down here is also positioning you to that of a junior level. Don't need a section for courses, particularly since you've already got an education section. Wow, look at you. You're making edits on the fly.
Yeah, just remember. So you think I should highlight education and just put it on the same level with the courses?
I don't mind the way you've done it here, just taking the tool section and moving it under skills. I would still attempt to. My skill section is closer to a bulleted list of just comma delineated stuff. It's skill number 1, skill number 2, skill number 3, and then I include my tools inside those skills. So I could just put Figma right here in a generic skill section. Mine's not even segregated by research and strategy or UX design.
Okay.
By the way, if you're unfamiliar, this session is being recorded. You don't have to make these changes live if you don't want to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. It's a goal.
Yeah, you're welcome to come back and watch it from
I
there.
forgot.
And then the only other thing that comes to mind is this view portfolio link at the top could be written out, enabling print friendliness. That said, I don't know how many people are printing resumes anymore, but it's a neat little thing we can do to just add a little bit more value. Those are the high level thoughts I have. Tim, any additions to any of that?
I made some comments here, but you don't need the text size to be as large. So you're noticing that like you're losing a lot of space on your website, because look how like there's so much space in between like languages and skills, education and courses. Like there's lots of paragraph spacing here. And then also like the text size in some places is a little large. You don't really need it to be that large, especially for like your Gmail, your LinkedIn, or your View portfolio. You can make those things smaller, and that's going to be okay. And then you'll have even more room to have a full 2 pages. And that's what I'd recommend. You know, if you're going to do a resume, I would go for I would try to set up it so it goes either to the end of 2 pages, so like 2 full pages that are rich and have lots of good writing in them, or you do 1 full single page. That's been my standard recommendation. Why do I do that? Maybe even I don't know, but there's something to that of having the content being completely filled out and being able to speak enough detail for each of these. You also may find, by the way, since you have your professional experience listed under agency, design agency remote, if you did multiple projects under this design agency for Indicius, is that how you say that?
Indicius.
Okay, yeah, for them, I can't say that back. I'm sorry. If you did multiple projects for them, you might be able to separate those out into multiple bullet points in your resume by listing it as, you know, under that design agency project specific title, right? And then you can have even more content on your resume, and that might give you a little bit more room to, instead of saying redesigning a mobile application, redesigning a website of a payroll infrastructure, redesigning a multi-employer defined benefit pension, right? And then you could have each of those be separate items. And now you have like multiple projects that you're really exposing because they were each for different clients, right? So that's,
Mm-hmm.
that's a recommendation you can consider.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time and your feedback. I've got lots of ideas to try, and well, I iterated.
Yeah, Flor, really appreciate the time. Appreciate you hanging out with us.
No, thank you.
Next on the list, we've got Sakib. And then if we're able, I know Casey was looking for portfolio feedback from days ago. If we're able to squeeze them in as well, I can stay a little bit late if that's okay.
Let's get her in. I'm looking for, there's Flor.
I think I was looking earlier, and I'm not sure if he is still on the call.
Oh, Sakib took off. That would certainly solve that problem.
I don't see another one after Flor. I'm scrolling. I don't see anything after Flor.
Where did it?
Yeah, Sakib looks like they've taken off. And actually, it kind of works out in the sense that Sakib was wanting to take a look at a particular product that he had made. So we have less value there.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
Okay.
Cool. Let's invite Casey to chat. Let's take a look.
Casey Designs from Scott.
Got him.
Hey, how's it going?
Well, okay. Doing well. How are you?
I am so excited. I didn't think I was going to be able to get a review, but I'm really, really happy to be here.
Right at the tail end. Appreciate you hopping on.
Of course.
Give us a little bit of
Casey,
context.
should we call you Casey? Should we call you Carla?
My name is Carla, but I realize I've had this trend of just writing Casey on all my social media, so I kept it up with my logo and branding.
Hey, nice.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I've been designing for digital products for over 3 years, mainly in startups and founder-led environments. However, for some time now, I feel like I've been seeking opportunities with larger product teams where I can collaborate and share ideas so I can grow as a designer. I would love your honest feedback about how my portfolio communicates my process, my impact, and my personality without casting a shadow, I want to say, because I feel like sometimes I'm very, very bubbly, and I wonder if that can be detrimental for me. So, yeah.
What's the title that you're looking to target?
So, definitely want to work for larger product teams. Is there a specific one currently? Not really. I think I worked for smaller teams before and have been great, but I would really like to work with a bigger company where I can learn how to collaborate in that way, because I feel like it's not something I've been able to venture on.
Yeah, were you on the phone call earlier when we were talking about centralized environments versus decentralized?
Yes, I was paying attention.
What I'm gathering is if you've got background in startups, you're probably in a space that feels more decentralized, as in you've got a product team and you're doing a whole lot of generalistic stuff, except that your startups probably haven't chosen that. That's just what the budget they have for. Is that sounding right?
Yes, I've been basically done from their marketing perspective to the startup of sketches to wireframing till seeing it being published.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, what about seniority levels? I'm trying to narrow down, choosing a particular title to target narrows down how it can validate your goals and validate that what you have is accomplishing those. So I'm trying to, knowing that we don't have that, I'm trying to hone in elsewhere. Do you have an idea for seniority level, entry, junior, mid-senior?
Yeah. Reasoning that I haven't had experience with larger teams, I think I fit between the bucket of medium to maybe even junior, because I'm still learning to work with a bigger team if I'm shooting my shot that way. I feel that I wouldn't be able to, and I have applied for senior levels, but I feel like the reason maybe I'm not hearing back is because I don't have that experience of working under a bigger umbrella where I'm pushing tasks off and organizing that. So, medium to junior, I guess. That's
Cool.
where I throw
Understood.
my hat at.
I have a question for you. This freelance section you have here,
Yeah.
how do you have? Is this more or less than 10 different projects?
I would say it's probably, yeah, probably 10, more than 10, or hitting that number. Yeah, more than 10.
Okay. Here. All right. Should we dive into a case study or just landing page overall, Nate? What do you think?
I'm tempted to do a shallow level of both if you're open to that. Because I'm trying to figure
I
out
have
how
some
to best.
feedback on the positioning for sure.
Yeah, that's where my mind's at. Yeah.
Carla, if you're trying to get hired into a bigger level team, you're probably looking at applying to jobs. Is that correct? Or are you just hoping teams are going to discover you?
Oh no, I've been applying. It's actually kind of nice to read on the comment section that there's people applying over 100 places, because I'm like, okay, I got 50 more to go.
Yep.
So yeah, I've been applying.
The job market is pretty tough right now. It is the ratio, so when you're looking at it like in an application funnel, you need to make sure you have a high surface area of jobs that you're applying to, but you also need to make sure you have quality materials, so that the relationship is you're applying to enough jobs to be seen and you have a sticky enough content that people want to talk to you. And the amount of jobs you need to apply to is kind of ridiculously high right now. It's like applying to 100 to 200 jobs for a single callback or a single interview, but you need probably, 3 to 4 interviews before you find a job offer. And so when you do like the scope of that, when you start to like look at the funnel, you're talking about like a minimum of 100 jobs, but like up to maybe like 400 to 500 jobs applied to before you get an offer. And that may vary depending on the season, right? So there's stuff going on there. But talking about your positioning, your website very much leans into a freelancer or an independent contractor type of thing. Ooh. Like I land here and I assume, by the way, it's built in Framer. Is that correct?
Yes.
Very nice. Very nice.
You're
great
people.
Implementation of Framer. A couple of things I give feedback about on your Framer implementation, but that's not right now. Focusing on this as like a positioning, your position right now is a freelancer. And I do think that positioning yourself as a freelancer who's applying to full-time roles, especially looking for corporate or big-time companies, is the wrong move. I think that those are disjointed. I think that you're going to find these people, when you're looking at like a corporate role, kind of hiring someone in, they are looking for people who show like team cohesion and also evidence of working inside of corporate structure in the past. And freelancers don't give off or exude that confidence. Maybe you'll be successful anyways. But I think my biggest suggestion would be overall, I think you'll need to reposition how you are framing yourself when people land here, so that you are more suitable towards that corporate level kind of hiring. So for example, freelancers will put a contact me or a hire me button up here. And that's kind of like your CTA, right? The CTA is, I want people to talk to me over email because that's how I get traffic. Now you need to reposition your CTA as, well, if someone is hiring me and I'm applying to jobs, I don't want them to, open my job application and then click hire me and email me because I'm already in the funnel. Instead, I need them to do something more akin to like choosing me. So changing your CTAs and understanding that people come here in the interim to learn about you rather than choosing this as the funnel to where they hire you. Hey, what else do you have to say on that? And also,
I don't know. I think you've got it. Well, I got other stuff I can talk about. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to ask maybe my heading, because you are speaking about that, and I think that has been my dilemma mentally. I'm like, how do I put myself good for like a bigger company to see me, and not just startups, because I'm cool with startups, but like, I want friends. So in the design side. So yeah, like maybe my title is not asking of that, or how could I position, or if you could guide me with an example, so maybe my my title can change a little and it's not so like I'm a freelancer. Hire me.
Yeah. How would we redefine a hero section? So I think if you're talking about like minimal lifts. So we first got, hi, I'm Carla, right? This has a big creator energy to this, right? It's like the handwritten, very boutique feeling. You may want to consider shifting away from that slight boutique feeling into something that feels a little more rigid, just like the vibe that you give off, right? And then I design product experiences. You're not giving a role title here. You're taking ownership of a process, which is great on a freelance level. But you have to remember, when you're hired full time, you're hired under a job title. So it'd be good to include the title that you're looking for. So you'd say like product designer, for example, or senior product designer, or whatever you're going for there. And then using underneath that to talk a little bit about how you own that job title, such as, I didn't talk about it, we've talked about this a bunch already, but like your why, how, and your who and what, basically telling companies who that they're the right fit for you, right? You want someone who's for example, maybe you want to get hired by real estate corporate. I actually don't even know if there's such thing as real estate corporate. That sounds like the exact wrong industry. But assuming it's a real estate corporate, BlackRock, I guess, or something, right? Where you want them to say like, hey, product designer, I help companies increase the amount of real estate transactions every day for real estate enterprise. And now you're kind of headhunting a little bit more inside that. You're owning that space a little bit better, rather than having this catch-all of I design product experiences for, everyone. It also is pretty generic. For a freelance audience, this probably makes sense since you're working with people who may not know the right language. But in a corporate world, you have to assume people are a little bit better at understanding and kind of challenging some of the things you might say, because they look at a lot of portfolios. They have a lot of people who apply to their jobs.
Okay. So to the design aspect, I heard a little, and I just want to make sure that I'm understanding. Maybe my stylistic, I'm a little too playful with it, and maybe bring it more of the security, corporate, clean aesthetic. That's more like gives the safe feeling, I guess.
I mean, that was a great reframe, spoken like a true designer. And I think so. Kay's adding something onto it.
Oh, I was going to wait. Continue this thought, because I have a thought about something a little different. Unless the thought has been continued.
That was a continued thought, yeah.
Okay. My and I actually don't know if you guys spoke about this or not, because I was kind of doing a couple other things in the background, but I see your projects here, and I know that on this call we've talked a lot about like how you present the projects within the headings, like, what was it, like improved viewership by blah 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 blah, something like that. So I like see your headings, and I see they say like designing motivation, designing for, and I think that like as a designer, like everybody's designing, so maybe tweak it to be more specific for what the problem was and more of the impact and that kind of thing.
Okay.
These do have the feeling of a product, especially with the way you have your navigation bar. When I first landed on here, I actually wasn't sure if this was a link to a real estate profile that you had. I thought this
same
business, or like your VR business or your fitness business. This has sort of that like feeling of these, especially when you're anchoring it by like down here, like streamline your home buying. So like this is like you're almost selling me a product that you streamline home buying. You're selling me a product that you like have motivation design for people.
Interesting.
Right. And so instead you could reframe these as like your impact, or like how you did work for them. Nate will probably say something a little more eloquent about it. But like, for example, you could say like what you're doing. So if you're selling yourself as a senior product designer, you talk about like improved home buying by some ridiculous number, like 700%, by redesign, by streamlining a website for so and so. And now you're telling someone essentially what they could expect you to do for them. You're achieving an outcome through a process that aligns with your job title for a company, and now your user audience can start to see themselves inside that job title, that audience as well. And so I'm like, Carla improved home buying for people by like 900% for this company. That company is actually a lot like my company. We're about the same size even, and so she could probably do the same thing for me actually. And then I start to you start to sell yourself to me already just in those titles.
Okay.
I'm looking at your case study right now. I'm grabbing verbiage from your content, and I love the sentence. I love the redesign from branding to product flow, reducing a 100-hour process and a 10-minute streamlined experience. I would take that. The hook for me would be a title somewhere along the lines of buying a house in 10 minutes. Like something like that would be an awesome hook.
Mm-hmm.
I love how much personality there is here too.
Sam, by the way, I wanted to mention, I thought it was funny hearing your perception of the tabs at the top. My perception was that these were 3 different areas that Carla has expertise in. Like these are her specializations.
We were saying the same thing though, right? Or no? Because I kind of thought that these were like separate ventures that she has or something.
Ventures or specializations. I think they attach you too much to these industries. Unless you really want to get hired into one of these industries, I would be careful using them as your actual navigation up here.
Well, because these are just links to these same projects, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I would just say keep those links down where they are, and not like Tim is saying, not put them in the main nav.
The hurdle we're trying to solve here is recruiters and hiring managers just want to look at your case studies. So now the goal is make it as quick and easy as possible to find those case studies. A link at the top that says case studies and a title above your case studies would go a long way to helping those folks finding them.
Okay.
Or I've even seen some people do like kind of like case studies, and then it has like a drop down of like all the case studies. The problem with that is that like when you get more case studies, like you have to be wary of how long that list goes, but that could be something that could be.
Mm-hmm. So
Carla, I might.
go ahead. I'll listen.
So many people talking at one time. I've got a pivot conversation about the differences in job titles. Happy to talk about that whenever, Tim.
I actually might recommend that instead of editing this website, build a new one. Because you said it's been a while, right?
For this one, no. I think it's been maybe, I guess it's been like 3 months since I redid my site. Because I feel like I had a last one that was a little bit more plain. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to give all my bubbliness into this. And maybe it was too much bubbles.
Yeah. And the thing is, I love this. This is such a good like website. If I was looking for like a freelancer, right? I can totally imagine putting myself, if I was a small medium business, I'm imagining the age of the people who own that business, imagining their business type practices. And I imagine that when they're like, yeah, I need to hire someone, I'm looking for someone who has a personality, who feels relatable, who feels like they can speak plain, simple words that like match the things, reduce friction, deliver results. All that's like really good for that certain audience. And if you're still open to working with those audiences on a freelancer basis, or kind of like running a small, like even if you go to your About Me page, I do think it's a little criminal that this is auto playing with no controls and the volume's already on.
Oh, yeah.
That is actually, that's a crime. That's a crime. But I think like, especially when you get to this page like this, like that speaks really well to that audience. And so I think that you have nailed a certain audience with this website. It is just not the audience of people who are hiring corporate designers. And if you want to work inside of these bigger orgs as a corporate designer, what does that even mean? If you want to work inside of a business though, where like there's a little more structure and you're maybe one of 3 designers, or there's like a set VP, there's a lead, you're working in agile systems. This is not the audience. You're not targeting that audience. And so I almost feel like you need to, don't destroy this, but instead build something that instead speaks that audience more directly, and integrate some of your things here. You can have the same case studies, but reframing all of these case studies to speak to that audience a little bit more clearly, and to be less bubbly, because now you're focusing on the impact. Like this is, you're trying to sell me your personality. Personality is a great way to go for startups and for small, medium businesses who are really afraid of personalities. And corporate is not worried about the personality as much as they're worried about those results. And that lets you kind of segment that a little bit. I don't know if that's out of field or anything, or if people will disagree.
Can I add on that too? I think your personality is great for interviews, though. I don't think that would be something that would turn you away. I think that's like a bonus. I don't know if you guys would agree with that or not, but I think it makes you very memorable. But so I think the trick is that your portfolio itself is just not giving off that like corporate-esque vibe.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the homepage a bunch. I want to talk a little bit about theory, and then I'm looking at the clock, and we'll probably not have time to dive into a case study. Is that okay, Carla?
Let's go.
Are you able to come back next week so we can take a deeper dive into your case studies?
Yes, I'll be here.
If you're able, would love to chat again.
Okay.
Tim, I'm going to take over the screen for a second here. So one of the quandaries I'm attempting to solve now, Carla, is we don't yet have the title by which we are positioning you in targeting. And that title is going to go a long way toward better understanding who your target audience is and then positioning you for that target audience. So this is a potential solution. Solution? This is my perception of how the market is currently defining these job titles. Now, it's important to know that anybody you ask, if you ask 4 different people this question, you will get 4 different answers. So this is my perception of how I think the market currently perceives how these job titles work, if that makes sense at all. On the left-hand side, this is a graph. On the left-hand side, we've got tactical, and on the right-hand side, we've got strategic. Now, you are coming from a design startup workspace, and design startups in nature and what you've described so far tend to be generalistic in nature. I'd be willing to bet money that your skill set is more broad than it is deep. Is that sounding right? So with that in mind, it is likely that the breadth of skill set you have is more all-encompassing, more business-focused than it is specific to like UI, for example. You probably have skill sets in UI, but you probably also have skill sets external and adjacent to that of UI. So then we have UI here. If we elevate our scope to UX, UX, I would argue, incorporates UI, though they may not focus or specialize in UI. They still have skills in it, but they focus at a higher elevation. You likely have skill sets here. And this may be the elevation that you're at. From everything I've heard you say so far, I would position you closer to that of product, just a generic product designer, as in you accomplish a lot of things. Your case studies seem like they're focused more on outcomes. So you're more strategic in nature. You are challenging business outcomes and business problems, breaking those down into smaller pieces, and then validating that your little startup is the momentum is accurate in solving those particular pieces. That sounds more product design to me. So as you attempt to position yourself, I would argue you are better suited to position yourself around product design than UX or UI, knowing that you're attempting to target enterprise level stuff where they're looking for, I would argue, more of that generalistic nature. Tim and I can talk about that more in depth at some point too. How are you feeling about that? Is all of that making sense? Any questions about that?
Yeah, no, it's really funny because like I have like a similar map of that like in front of my desk. It's such an extensive umbrella, right? And when I'm searching for jobs, like I want to keep in mind like what they're asking for. And I have gone through some interviews in the past. Oh gosh, who was this? I can't remember what company it was, but they definitely were trying to put me in an area. And I think the reason why I didn't move to the next level was because they couldn't find me to a specific, because they were like, oh, do you want to focus on UI? And I was like, okay, like I've done this. I've also done UX. And I think, I think that's the reason I'm having an issue just selling myself as a product designer, because I'm learning how to do that.
Yeah, I don't know the deeper context there. I would speculate that that's accurate. Now, real fast before I hang up my mic, as you're applying for jobs, keep in mind that these definitions, everything I just described, are not totally universal just yet. So even if the job description says they're hiring for a UX designer or UI designer, you should still keep an eye out for that job description and validate that maybe the recruiter is calling it UI, but it's actually more UX. That kind of conundrum happens all the time. Like I would argue the majority of the applications are not best suited for their job titles. I would argue. Anyway, that's the food for thought. That's some little bit of theory for you. Tim, Katie, any last words that we want to talk about in regard to Carla's portfolio?
Carla, thanks for your time today and keep doing the thing. And just like Katie kind of said, I would hate for you to feel like we're squashing your personality or that you have to like bland yourself down. I think I do think the framing and adjusting for your audience is the key thing here. And so if there's a way for you to integrate your personality to where your personality supports the outcomes and the structure that you want to sell within rather than being the thing that you are selling, that will support you, I think.
Okay. Thank you. Really appreciate the feedback. Like I said, I knew there was something in there that I was missing out. So I'm really glad to hear that in order to go for more corporate, bigger companies, I have to find a way to present myself better to them.
Also, it is a small crime to have an auto playing video with audio with no controls available.
He's still talking about it. That's how big of a crime it is.
So,
for the record, Carla, if you are looking for more objectivity there is some WCAG regulation. So that the hurdle is auto-playing audio prevents accessibility screen reading from occurring, because as blind users are utilizing a website, they can no longer hear the website being read to them. That's the quandary.
Oh, okay.
At least. Yeah.
Okay.
Carla, thanks for hanging out with us. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody's input. And thank you for hosting this for everybody. It's pretty awesome.
Our pleasure. Love doing this.
It's a good time, yeah.
We're at the end of our session today. I put a link in the chat for a recording of today's session, and I'm so sorry, Ronald and Nelly, we didn't quite get a chance to get to you today. I see Ronald's still out there. Ronald, feel free to join us next Friday. We do this every Friday. If you're able to hop in 10 minutes early to add your portfolio to the chat, you'll be first on the list most likely. We do this every Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I think that's all I have to say. Tim, Katie, what am I missing?
We appreciate you guys being here. If you guys have feedback or thoughts, comments, things you want us to do differently or see differently, let us know. We would happily receive it. I can't promise you that we will absolutely change our lives or what we're doing, but we do want to hear and be aware of you guys because we do this for you. We're trying to build the community and help people along the way. That's why we do it. So if it's not working, you got to tell us.
I think the biggest takeaway is that we taught Nate new meme culture.
Friend-shaped.
Friend-shaped.
Why not friend if friend-shaped?
Friend-shaped.
Right?
It sounds so wrong when Nate says it. I don't know why, but
I'm hip. I'm cool.
So
he says in his flannel shirt.
Okay, thanks,
GNW
guys.
We're going to do a little bit of after hours. I think we're going to look at 3 websites that are built with Framer because someone asked me for that. And I have